This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
The opinions on this program are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WPSL. WPSL does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WPSL. Legal questions? Ask a lawyer. Give us a call at 340-1590, 340-1590 here at the studios of WPSL. And Ask a Lawyer with your host, attorney Stuart M. Address.
Good morning to everybody listening on the third rock from the sun. And this is Ask a Lawyer. I was out last week. You heard a special rebroadcast. I think it was the Mueller report you listened to again.
Oh, I thought we replayed Rush Limbaugh or something.
You better not have.
You were on the Love Boat.
Oh, yeah, that's what they call it. The fun ship, Carnival Cruise Lines. Oh, could I say a lot about Carnival Cruise Lines? I could say, for instance...
Do I need to bleep you here? Or,
no, you won't need to bleep me.
Oh.
I could say, for instance, I didn't want to go on Carnival. I was on Carnival once before a while back, and I really didn't like it. But in looking for a quick getaway, they were the least expensive. There's a reason for that, in my opinion. Notice how I said in my opinion? That saves me from defamation. Ask a lawyer. You don't want to defame people. You know something? It's good to be back, and it's good to have gone away for a weekend and actually have a topic to at least start the show with. Because we actually do get calls from people who have had incidents on cruise lines. And it's not very much we could do for them, other than refer them perhaps to a maritime attorney. But
there are maritime
attorneys? Oh,
attorneys?
Absolutely. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, you better believe it.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yes. You know, Florida is the cruise capital of the world. And yes, there are maritime attorneys down generally in Miami-Dade and Broward. And they're usually in larger law firms because, you know, that kind of law, unless it's a big case, doesn't really take up your entire day.
I was going to say, does any of that pay very well?
It can take up all your time depending upon the case. But the law is very complicated. So if something happens to you on a cruise ship, kiss your tuchus goodbye. No, that's an oversimplification. The reality is, we had a very nice cruise, but there were two things that happened that were quite irritating and led me yesterday, one of the advantages of being a lawyer, to write a 4-page letter to General Counsel and Vice President of Carnival Cruise Lines.
Oh, no.
Who knows? Yes. Maybe I'll get a little something.
Yeah. Another free cruise.
Maybe only a photo frame. There's a reason for that laugh. So what happened? Okay. We board. We get to our cabin. It's hot as Hades. Ain't no air conditioning working. It's cooler on the deck. It's cooler in the hallways. We're sweating bullets once you enter the cabin. So that's around 2 o'clock on Friday. And I call for, I don't know, maintenance, engineering. I don't remember what they call it. Let's call it maintenance. And they say, well, they'll send somebody to check it out. Wonderful. I fully expected they would do that and it would be fixed. We went around and did other things. We came back about 5 o'clock. And we start sweating bullets. Nobody had been there. Now, as an average Joe, that would peeve me. As a lawyer, that really irritated me. As somebody who is sweating bullets, let's just say I can't use those words. So I try to call again. And
you weren't on an inside cabin, were you?
No, we had a lovely balcony.
Yeah, did you open the window?
That makes it hotter.
Oh, okay.
And I call, and they try, press 1 for engineering. So I press 1. I get this lovely background, message, of all the things that are available on the ship. And when the message runs out, it's silence. So I'm waiting, and then I hear click. I'm cut off. So I call again. Press 1 for engineering. Cut off. I try it a third time. Cut off. Now I'm really irritated.
Well, the engineers may not have been on board.
Yeah, right. So I figure, how do I circumvent this computerized system without going all the way over to guest services and get a human being? Well, I called room service. And I told them, oops, I'm trying to get a live person in guest services. Can you help me? They transfer me to somebody. And I say to that somebody, 3 hours ago, and nobody's come yet. It's really hot here. I want something done. Okay. So next thing we know is a lovely woman, I don't know from what nation. All I know is she didn't really speak English. She comes down, not to fix it, but with a meter to test the air. As if I'm lying about there being no air conditioning. It's 79 plus in the cabin. So, in, the best that she could do, she says, somebody will be down there. Okay. So, a lovely guy from maintenance comes. He opens up 2 panels in the ceiling. He fiddles around with what looks like to be, I'll call it the exhaust. I don't know what the technical word is. And tells me it'll start cooling down. Okay. So, we again go out for the evening. And we come back about 1 in the morning. It's hot as Hades. Now, at 1 in the morning, you can't find anybody to talk to. So we slept, no covers or anything. Just, my son was in the cabin, so we couldn't strip down. So I wait till morning, and I call again. And this lovely young lady comes back with a meter. And it's 78 plus.
Well, it went down a degree.
Right. So she says somebody will come down. So the same guy comes back, opens up the same panels, does the same thing. It will cool down. So a little while later, third time I call. Now he comes back with a supervisor. And he opens up the same panels. Says it'll cool down. We're now a day and a half into the 3-day cruise. Finally, we get air conditioning. Hallelujah. Okay. It took a lot of work. And if that's all that had happened on the cruise, it would have been a funny story, but that's all it would have been. Oh, I'm getting on Facebook Live horrible tears with flashbacks from my girlfriend. I think it's traumatic for her listening to this story. Well, what I'm about to talk about now is even more traumatic to her, at least. I've always heard the phrase, a deer caught in the headlights. Intellectually, I've understood what it meant. I've never experienced it. I did. I'm devastated, she says. I became a deer caught in the headlights. I had arranged on the second day, Saturday of the cruise, to have sent to the cabin for her a little gift. A beach bum photo frame. I figured we'd buy one of the photos and, we'd put it in the frame.
Sure.
So the frame comes with a little note. I give it to her. She opens it up. And the frame says, just married. She looks at me. I look at her. I'm a deer caught in the headlights. I don't know. Maybe it only took 2 seconds. To me, it was 2 years. And I finally go, no, mistake. Wrong frame.
Yes?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
no.
she's looking at me. Fortunately, I have this lovely, understanding girlfriend. It looks like somebody's calling. They may have a similar story. And so I will finish my story after this caller, Joe on line 1. Hey, Joe. You there, Joe?
Yes.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. I got a beef to take up with you.
All right, tell me about it.
All right. 2 weeks ago, you went on a tirade.
I did. That sounds like me.
Well, listen, I don't know how to properly present my case that I'm about to lay out, but it won't contain any profanities or such.
All right.
And I would like to let you know as a disclaimer right up front, I am a supporter of his, all right? I was a Blue Dog Democrat prior to the primaries here in Florida. I don't want to consume a lot about politics, but my main beef was this. You as an attorney, a barrister, a lawyer, whatever you want, I think you did yourself a huge disservice by the presentation that you gave 2 weeks ago, and then it was rebroadcast last week, which I didn't catch the 2 weeks ago, but I did catch last week. And you talk about being fumed about air conditioning. Yeah. Wow. To call the man a buffoon, just to outright call him a buffoon, I really think you lowered your professional standards there. It's okay not to like the guy. It's okay to hate the guy if you want to hate him. But the presentation you took advantage of during that almost entire hour, I really don't think you did yourself a proper service, sir. And I mean that with all due respect.
And that's okay. That's why I'm letting you talk. I take it with all due respect. Obviously, I disagree with you, but I do agree that you are entitled to your opinion. And, I've often said that, as an attorney who does discrimination and civil rights law, I'll defend your right to your opinion.
Well, nobody gives a man any credit for anything. I mean, it's like the crucifixion all over again.
Well, now that's going a wee bit far, but I will agree that I don't give the man credit for almost anything. I don't think he deserves it.
You don't think the economy has strengthened?
I think the economy was on the upward tick for the last year and a half of the Obama presidency.
Oh, okay. You're one of them Obama.
I am one of them, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's me.
Well, it's time to get over losing the election.
Something? Look, I wasn't a fan of George W. Bush. I wasn't a fan of George H.W. I wasn't a fan of Ronald Reagan. But they were our president. They were my president. They did a lot of good things. I disagreed with them on policy quite a bit, but I respected them. I'm sorry. I have absolutely zero respect for the current president, and he's not my president. He's a buffoon. I know you disagree, but that's how I feel.
It's not just that I disagree. I still can't get over, you're an attorney.
That's my legal analysis.
You're on the radio to sell your product. And I really don't think you're doing yourself a service. You could say, hey, I don't like the guy, I detest the guy, this, that, and the other thing. But you went in there with a scalpel and really cut into it.
Well, I tried to examine the Miller report 2 weeks ago, and I did it in that context of whether or not a sitting president is subject to indictment, and we were going to continue that today, after my little cruise ship prelude on whether or not a sitting president should be subject to indictment, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of opinions on that, and you might be surprised at my opinion.
Yeah, I understand that, and you certainly are entitled to them. But as I said, to the degree that you went into it with him, I mean, it was like the man's done nothing good. He hasn't spurred along the job growth. He hasn't spurred along the economy. This is all Obama's doing.
Well, I mean, we could certainly
listen. Yet, as an attorney. And this is really a selling feature, or maybe not so much a selling feature on your part. If you mean to tell me that you intelligently analyzed a lot of things, Obama versus Trump, so on and so forth, you mean to tell me Hillary should have been beaten, should have beat that treasonous act that she committed?
Oh, my goodness gracious. First of all, you obviously don't know the definition of treason.
Well,
there was no act of war. All right, and yes, I do believe she should have beat him. And Joe, while I appreciate everything you're saying, and I do believe you have the right to say it, we do have John online too, so I got to go to John. Thank you for calling. John, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi there. How can I help you?
Oh, okay. I thought you were still talking. I'm sorry. Yeah, the only comeback they have is the economy. Let me tell you something. If Trump were a minority, they'd be hating him as well as they did Obama.
You're right.
That's what it's all about. It's it's a conservative station, and I hate to come in bad mouth because Carol and Greg are wonderful people. I've known them for 25 years. But it's pretty sad. It really is. They don't talk about anything that he's done wrong. Just the economy. That's their defense.
Well, that's true, John, and I could tell. Unlike Joe, your perspectives are probably more in line to mine. I don't mind, people like Joe who have that opinion. I disagree with them.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Ask a Rabbi comes on after me, and the temple that I'm in, there are two very significant people that are absolute Trump supporters. And after our services, when we sit down and Jews like to call it we nosh, we snack. We're able to talk about politics a little bit. We do it with a smile on our face, a sort of a joking sound in our throat, so as not to offend. We both know that what the other is saying we mean, and we have completely different viewpoints. But we like each other as people, and I'm not going to dislike this person just because I don't understand why in God's green earth they could like Trump, or at this point they could still like Trump.
Well, it's simple. He represents the prejudice and the hate and the ignorance of a lot of people.
You are right. You're right.
And I hate to say this. This is everybody, but don't forget, he's for big business. The rich get rich, the poor get poorer, and that's always the way it's been. And no one has divided this country, I don't think, since the Civil War.
I agree with you. I truly do agree with you.
I want to say one more thing, because I know Greg's fit to be tired, I'm sure. But they have a program on PSL. I believe it's every Wednesday. I think it used to be a Tuesday. I'm not sure. And the man sells annuities and this and that. He's got a lawyer with him. He's got a realtor with him. And if his program's an hour, for 40 minutes, he badmouths the Democrats.
Uh-huh.
Obama and Hillary, Killary, and they all should be in jail and this and that. I called up one day and I said, you're a business person. I said, and you say some nasty, terrible things, insulting and this and that. He said, I got friends that are Democrats. Let me buy you a beer. I said, I don't drink Republican champagne.
You mean you don't drink the Kool-Aid?
Yeah, exactly. But he does that every week. No change.
All right. Let me say one short thing about this. I'm going to go back to my story, and then hopefully we can get into a little bit more Mueller report.
I think Greg's turning down the volume. I can barely hear you now.
No, you should be able to hear me. I generally agree with you. I don't think there's very much good you could say about Trump. Would I say that he has absolutely nothing to do with anything good that has happened in the economy? No, I won't say that. Oh, my God, I've just said something nice. No, I won't go that far. Yeah. I will say that
he's a businessman.
As a result of the efforts of President Obama, the economy was on the uptick for the last 18 months.
There's no question about it.
And I do believe that Trump came in, and he's entitled to claim responsibility for stuff that happens on his watch. But, the rocket was lit and was lifting off the pad. Mm-hmm. Now, we'll see what happens, in the next 2 years. Yeah. But, no, I don't generally think there's very much good. Well, I do agree with you. He has divided the country more than anybody else.
No question
I don't agree with you that the only people who support him are bigots and racists. And
no, I didn't say that.
Okay, I thought you did.
I said big business does also. Okay. And there are others that agree with him, and I don't know if they know exactly why, but just his campaign alone was enough to deter me from ever wanting to.
I hear you. I mean, I can hear the comments about the handicapped reporter reverberating in my ears right now.
But I want to tell you a quick story. He was giving a speech, and one of his Secret Service guys saw a guy that he thought had a gun.
Okay.
So he started hollering out, Mickey Mouse, as he ran to the guy and wrestled him to the floor. So after they took the guy away, Trump said to him, what was that all about, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse? He said, I was very excited, I was nervous, and I was trying to say Donald Duck, Donald Duck.
Okay.
All right, John.
Thank you very much, John.
All right, bye-bye.
All right.
Okay, we have a lady apparently. Carol,
Oh, I'm irritating a number of people, it seems.
oh, you are, and our ratings just went down by 1.
Okay. Lady turned off radio. Trump, not my president, offended her.
All right.
Okay.
Oh well. But you know what's interesting?
I can't even apologize to her because she turned off the radio. But you know.
Well, she may be listening on a stream though. She may be listening on her phone, so or somebody will tell her.
Legally, he's my president. Okay. Practically speaking, I cannot accept him as the president of the United States.
You know, it's...
let me say one thing. Honestly. I've always viewed, and I think most of the world has viewed, the president as the leader of the free world. It's always been sort of a thing that you've said. But it's been the truth, too. I no longer truly believe that the world looks at the president of the United States as a leader of the free world. He has alienated so many people and aligned himself with the worst of the worst. Frankly, if you ask me who is the leader of the free world, I'd say the German chancellor. She has taken on the role and is more vocal. It's certainly not the Prime Minister of England. It's not the President of France. I'd say it's the German chancellor. And I think that whoever we re-elect, or elect, thank goodness, man, woman, beast, it would be nice to get back to being the leader of the free world. It's a pretty important, symbolic role. And I think we've lost that, and that bothers me, in fact, probably more than most things.
You know what's weird about the whole Mueller thing, though, that is so strange?
A lot of it is strange.
Well, no, but when they, the Justice Department opened up the, I guess, viewing, if you will, of the unredacted.
Right.
Nobody's been down there. What are these Congress people and senators doing? That's what I don't understand.
I'm going to tell you what they're doing.
They pontificate.
Exactly.
On the
That's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing. Oh, gosh.
My son said something to me. We're going far afield now, but my son said something to me in the car yesterday, and I came down on him like a ton of bricks because I thought it was an immature view, and I thought he was better than that, frankly, because I've trained him that way. We've watched lots of we've watched all the State of the Union since he was like 6 or 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about this stuff. He said to me that if most of the Congress people are in favor, as it sounds like they are, of LGBTQ rights, then they should just pass a law. And I said to him, oh my goodness. They could agree that Earth is the third rock from the sun, and they couldn't pass a law. Right now, it doesn't matter what they believe. If the party doesn't want to go along with it, it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
And if you need bipartisan support on almost anything, it doesn't get done. And I gave him the example that we all agree. I mean, really, we all agree that the United States infrastructure needs repair. Our roads need repair. Our bridges need repair. Our tunnels need repair. If everybody agrees on that, isn't that the easiest thing for even the Trump administration to get a major infrastructure project? A lot of jobs. Oh my goodness. Maybe some benefits of the economy might actually be attributable to him.
Well, Nancy Pelosi and Trump agreed on $2 trillion.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Now, how do they fund it?
Well, right. But, the infrastructure bill, it's not going to get done. It hasn't got done. It didn't get done under Obama. It didn't get done under Bush. I mean, why not? Because, well, there are special interests, and because Congress people follow the party. And if the party doesn't really want to do it, but they want to use it as an election issue, then that's what it becomes. Now, that's me. That's now a very cynical view of a body that I used to have a lot of respect for. And no matter what I say about the inefficiency of Congress, the ineffectiveness of the executive branch, and even now, to me, some of the politicization of the Supreme Court, I will still tell you, and I will shout it from the rooftops, that we have the best system of government in the world. It falls short many, many times, and it needs repair, and it needs good people to serve it. But we have the best structure of any government in the world, and that's why we've been able to withstand so much. But, people have to go to Congress and be able to vote their conscience and not do just what their constituencies want so that they can get reelected, and not do what special interests want so they can get reelected. They need to do what they believe is right. And I think that's naive maybe of me. I think it happened a lot in the 50s and the 60s when they worked across the aisle, not on everything, but on important
Tip O'Neill
things.
and Reagan.
Exactly.
They used to have drinks
We
together.
don't do that anymore.
No, that's
gone.
gone.
Tip O'Neill and Reagan may not have been the best working couple in the world,
but they got stuff
they
done.
did accomplish things.
Yeah.
Well, it would be nice if the odd couple of Trump and Pelosi and Schumer could do what O'Neill and Reagan did and get things accomplished. Because there are areas of agreement no matter how much we disagree and want to yell at each other. So let's get all the stuff that we can agree upon done, and then let's yell at each other for all the other stuff. But instead, what we do now is we just yell at each other. And, look, I'm not going to change that. Nobody's going to change that. It's going to take a whole new crop of people. We had a very big crop of freshmen in the House this year. And it's going to take a lot of people, a lot of the younger people that are getting involved now who have different perspectives on politics and maybe who are going to do what they believe is right and not just what their party label says to do. I hope. But, it's not a well-functioning body there. Anyway, I'm sorry. We have Jerry on line, too.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hi there. How can I help you?
Yes, I was wondering. I did a term paper on the Lincoln-Douglas debate.
Oh, really? My son's going to do that next year.
Yeah, this is when I was young, and I just wanted to make sure that Frederick Douglass was not the Douglas that they were talking about in the Lincoln-Douglas debates. And I just wondered if you could talk about Frederick Douglass's contributions and the fact that he was a black man.
Yes.
And I'd like to listen off air, if that'd be okay.
That would be fine. I'll be frank. I'm very familiar with Lincoln-Douglas debating. I am not all that, I can't speak eloquently about Frederick Douglass. He was, a pretty esteemed individual. But I'll tell you, the whole reason why they call it Lincoln-Douglas debating is because it's an interesting style of one-on-one debate. When we have presidential debates now, folks, I'm going to clue you in on something as the speech and debate coach of Lincoln Park Academy. They're not debates. Those are speeches. They're not debates. If they were debates, then each candidate would have some time to cross-examine the other one. And they'd have to answer the question. And if they didn't answer the question, the moderator in a Lincoln-Douglas debate, the judge, would force the question to be answered, or you'd lose points. You'd lose the debate. As I said, my son is going to be doing Lincoln-Douglas debating next year. He's going to a 2-week workshop at Nova University this summer.
That's neat.
To learn it. Just like for 3 weeks when I was in high school, I went to Harvard for their Speech and Debate Institute. I think that, him learning how to actually do it, not just the substance, but the real mechanism of how you debate, not how you argue, but how you debate. I'm excited to see what he's going to be like as a sophomore going into Lincoln-Douglas debating. Because it's, I never did Lincoln-Douglas myself. I did 2-on-2, which was the type of debate we had really when I was in high school. Lincoln-Douglas is a little bit harder. It's you against one other person. And you got to have your wits about you. You can't rely upon your teammate. And there's cross-examination several times during the debate. I mean, I won't bore all of you with the structure of a competitive Lincoln Douglas debate in high school and college, but each person gets a chance to speak substantively. They get cross-examined. They then get a chance to have a rebuttal. They get cross-examined. They then have a final chance for a summation. Then there's a grand cross-examination where they both cross-examine each other at the same time. You win or you lose, generally, on cross-examination. Can you handle the unanticipated questions properly? Can you handle them substantively? And can you handle them persuasively? Can you handle them diplomatically? Or do you degenerate into what we would consider an argument or avoidance or deflection? It's a great skill. And I think that if we would require a lot of these people in primaries who engage in debates, and the presidential candidates of the major parties who engage in these debates, if we would not allow them to, this one's going to be this structure with the moderator, this one's going to be a town hall, and this one's going to be this type. I'm sorry, all of those are not debates. Even the ones where the audience questions, because they're all pre-screened. Let them have their say, give them a certain amount of time to speak, let the other one cross-examine for a certain period of time, make the moderator keep them stick to the rules and not deflect, but answer the question, or at least expose them to the nation that they're not answering the question.
You're assuming the moderator knows the rules.
Well, let's make it so. All right? Let's have a true Lincoln Douglas debate, because I tell you, that would let the American people know which one of the two people on the stand, it may not always be the one I want, but which one of the two people up there are truly prepared to lead the country. Right now, it's who looks better, who has the better makeup. Nixon had a real problem with that because he perspired a lot in the TV age.
That's how he lost to Kennedy.
Would Roosevelt ever have been elected in a wheelchair, in the TV age? No, a lot of it is shallow. So, get to something like Lincoln Douglas debating.
Now?
Excuse me?
Isn't the country shallow now?
I don't think so. I think a part of it is. I'll say, I'm going to give rough estimate. A third of it's shallow. A third of it is just so frustrated that they've tuned out. And a third of us really are interested and try to figure things out. The third of us who really care and listen and watch either MSNBC or CNN or Fox and try to figure things out, we're just not the minority. We cannot control who gets where. The ones who are the sheep, well, they're going to vote their way. It's the ones in the middle who have become disinterested, what generally would be called the independents. That's where elections are won and lost. Energize them. Get them to care again. And you have an election victory. We're way afield now, but, it's both law and politics. This is all law. Congress makes the laws. The executive implements the laws. The judiciary interprets the laws. This is all law. The entire Constitution it's a big law. The Declaration of Independence was a declaration of hopes and dreams, legal. It turned into a constitution. There are compromises made. I mean, let's be honest. The Declaration of Independence allowed slavery to continue. Why? Because if it didn't, the South would not have gone along and we would not have declared our independence from England and started a war. So a compromise had to be made. It was a hard compromise. Let's go to the Civil Rights Act that was passed during President Johnson after JFK was assassinated. You didn't pass all parts of the Civil Rights Act at the same time. They passed two titles initially. The public education, and they passed what they could. They passed what Democrats and Republicans could get together and eke out a majority vote. The rest of the stuff was amended down the road. What do I hear Congress people saying all the time now? I'm not going to vote for this because it doesn't contain X. Hogwash! If it contains Y and Z, and that's helpful to the country, pass the legislation. Argue for X in the next Congress. You never get everything you want all at once. Pass what you can piecemeal and work to make it better. Is Title VII of the Civil Rights Act perfect still? No. One of the things we were going to talk about, we won't get to it today, is the rights of people of different sexual orientation or transgender. Some courts have recognized it, some courts haven't. The Supreme Court's going to be taking it up, but it's not in Title VII. If Congress wanted to make it clear and not leave it up to the Supreme Court interpretation, it would do what? Pass a law. So everything is subject to amendment. And I think it's the height of incompetence to refuse to vote on something or vote yes on something because it doesn't give you everything you want. If it helps the public more than it hurts, vote yes. Fix it down the road. That's a workman's-like perspective, I guess, on it. And I think that we've lost touch with that. And we've all just become too antagonistic towards each other. And, do I blame Trump for it? Not really. This was starting long before Trump. Do I blame him for its escalation? Yeah, I do. I do blame him for a lot of the division in this country. A lot of the division that, honestly, and I realize that I was probably being, looking at it through rose-colored glasses. I thought a lot of this was gone when we elected President Obama the first time. I thought when the United States, the American people, elected a black president, wow, we'd come a long way. But what it really did was it exposed that small part of our society, which truly is bigoted and racist, and it made them more energized, and then along came somebody who spoke to them and allowed them to speak, and they're really, really loud right now.
But he sort of fell into the system, too, in his second administration, where
yes.
morass in D.C.
You're right. Look, I think people will call me. I'll never get to say what I want to say about the air conditioning and the photo frame. But I think President Obama was one of the best presidents we've had in a long, long time, and may go down as one of the best presidents in the history of this country. That doesn't mean I drink the Kool-Aid. He had an opportunity to do so much more for race relations. He didn't. Now, I understand why he didn't. He's come out and explained why he didn't. I disagree with him. His perspective was a black man cannot take the lead now on trying to fix race in America. It would look wrong. So he didn't tackle that issue. I wish he had. Okay? Oh, my goodness. We have two more calls, and we have a familiar one that's going to be on deck. But right now we got Jeff on line one. Hello, Jeff. Jeff, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, how can I help you?
Well, I was just going to say my thought on the plan, my opinion, so I don't get sued. All this racism that
See, I taught you
everybody's
something,
talking
didn't
about
I? Say your opinion.
created by politicians.
Okay.
It's not us people like Jeff and Joe at the bar or so-and-so at the thing. I work at a fast-moving place where I see a lot of people all day long, and from Spanish people to American people and when they're standing in line, they talk to each other, they do this to do that, and every now and then I'll just interject man, it's sort of sad. They always want us to fight with each other. And one of my black customers looked at me one day and said, "You know, Jeff, you're right." I said, "But you got to stop clinching and hollering and screaming to still work toward your goals. But when you start screaming, oh, it's out there, it's rampant, it's crazy, it's this, it's that." I looked at him and I said, have you seen any of it lately? And he said, no, not me. Well, I'm not going to hate you no matter what they tell me on the radio or what they tell me on the TV about how I'm supposed to hate you.
Well, I applaud you, Jeff. I really do.
You know, it's like, can we just not be friends? Everybody.
I agree. Look, I agree with you. And if you stay tuned for Ask a Rabbi, you're going to hear some of the very same principles, because the temple.
Well, I'm going to listen.
Okay, the temple that I belong to.
I'll talk to you later. But
All
I'm going to
right,
listen.
you take care. The temple that I belong to is very small, but we started really with a perspective of we all need to get along, and not just Jews. Everybody needs to get along. And as we have worked with
the old Rodney King thing, right?
Well, you know something? Along? What he said is absolutely right.
Yes, I know.
It may not have come from the right vehicle, yes. But what he said was absolutely right. When we've worked with Muslims in our community, when we've worked with Christians in our community, when we've had them at our temple, when we've gone to events at their churches and the mosque, you learn one thing very, very quickly. I truly do believe. You learn that we all have more in common than separates us. That doesn't mean there aren't important things that separate us in religion, in politics, in all sorts of areas. But it doesn't mean we have to dislike each other. And one of the things that we have found is the more you get to know another person, the more you get to know another group, the harder it is to hate them. Hatred's easy when you don't know them, when you want to just paint them to be evil. Get to know somebody and see how easy it is to hate them. Disagree with them? Sure. Hate them? That's tough. And I'll give just a couple really quick stories. Way back in the 70s, my mother worked at a place where somebody there hated her because she thought she had never actually met a Jew before. I guess she didn't realize that Jews live among us. And for a while, she really did die. She really disliked my mother for no other reason than she was Jewish. And I don't know how it happened. I'd have to ask my mother now. It's a long time ago. But my mother invited her to a Passover Seder at our house one night. And for whatever reason, she said yes. So she came to the Seder, and her and my mother became best friends for God knows how many years. It's hard to hate somebody when you begin to understand them. I've seen this time and time again. We've had the imam from the mosque in Fort Pierce at our temple. We've had a couple of the leaders of the mosque at our temple. When you talk about what our faiths have in common, along with the differences, you realize that we all come from the same place. And we may approach things differently, but that doesn't mean we have to dislike each other. Now, here's a perfect example. This is really more for Ask a Rabbi, and if Rabbi's listening, maybe she'll talk about it a little bit when she gets here. But I went to a church, a Catholic church, about 5 years ago. I had never really been in a church. I went with somebody who had gone with me to one of my services. And I sat there, and I was a little bit shocked. And I said afterwards, wow, I could agree with every single thing they said, except when they inserted the word Jesus. Other than that, I didn't really hear anything that I didn't agree with. And so I was mentioning that to the rabbi. And the rabbi, in shorthand, basically says, well, that's true. It's their religion. They have a perspective where, you know, they're going towards the same God that we have, but they take a detour on the highway and they make a stop at Jesus. Whereas we sort of go the express train. We go straight to God. Now, it doesn't make one better or worse than the other. It's a difference. But is that difference really so significant that we need to hate each other? I mean, it's ridiculous. You said I have 2 minutes. It's 10:52.
You have line 2.
Oh, my goodness. I am so sorry. The one person I have ignored is a person I haven't heard from in a while. It's Bulldog on line 2. Bulldog, are you still there?
Yes, I am, Stuart.
Where the heck have you been, buddy?
I'm sorry, man. My bad, all right?
You're bad.
I apologize.
But I don't hate you
Doctor's
for it.
appointments and things.
What's up?
I want to take exception to John and the Martech group. Yeah, they talk about politics, and they do it with the same tongue-in-cheek attitude that you do.
Right.
But I look at them for their services, which I've used, have nothing to do with politics.
Right.
I just think they're good at what they do and everything else. If they want to talk politics, they do it. It's fine. You've been talking politics now for half an hour.
You're right.
And, you know, instead of harassment cases or this or that, I don't care about that. I just happen to enjoy your show for what it is. And so I don't think we need to be that judgmental when it comes to politicism, racism, sexism, religious-isms, whatever isms you want to put out
You got
there.
it.
We don't need them.
Completely agree. You know, I will tell you, I have a client long before Trump ever, you know, crossed the landscape as a potential presidential candidate. I've had this one client, husband and wife. They own a business, and they're a lot of fun to talk to. I always knew they were Republican, but they're still a lot of fun to talk to. Trump enters the scene, and whenever we're visiting in my office, we completely disagree about this stuff completely. There is no way I'm ever going to convince them of my perspective, and they're never going to convince me of their perspective. And we laugh about it, and we still talk about it a little bit, but it doesn't interfere with the attorney-client relationship. I still like them, and they respect me. And that's all that really matters. The rest of it
you're
is
a
fun
Democratic
conversation.
Jew.
Yeah.
Big surprise. Who cares?
Well,
right?
I agree. And, you know, I think that not completely, but the younger generation, the current generation that is in school, are much more accepting of people based upon who they are and how they treat them, rather than what's their religion, you know, what's their national origin. And I see that. And it's one of the things I truly love about my son. I really don't, he doesn't see color, he doesn't see religion. He just knows, I like this person, they act nice, they treat me nice, or I can't stand this person, you know, they're mean and they're nasty. And
well, the other thing is, don't forget transgender now.
Yep.
Because that's becoming a big thing, and you look right through this. I don't care if a person's gay or anything; just don't hit on me.
Well,
we'll
I
get
hear
along
you.
fine.
Yep, I hear you. I agree with you, Bulldog,
right.
and it was nice to hear from you again.
Hey, nice to talk to you.
People have
Stuart.
asked me, "Where's Bulldog?"
Who is that, Nancy?
No. Just generally, people have actually said to me, "Haven't heard from Bulldog in a while."
All right, I'm here. I'll keep you in mind on Fridays.
All right.
All right.
Good
talk
talking to you.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, so now I only have a few minutes left. Let me quickly finish this thing. So the photo frame goes to my girlfriend, and it says "just married." And she looks at me, and I look at her, and I go, "Oh, no, wrong frame. Oh,
And your son looks at both of you.
Right, he's there. And she took it very well, fortunately. She sort of realized that at this stage I wasn't really about to propose. She said for a moment it crossed her head, because she knows how I am, I'm elaborate. Was this part one of a proposal? Was the ring about to come out next? But thankfully it only passed her brain for a split moment before she realized that no, something was wrong here. So we complained about that too. So why was I telling the story in the first place now that I only have 3 minutes left? We could talk about this another time, but let me give you the highlights. In internal waters, when you're on a cruise ship, the waters like the bays, contiguous waters, the law of the nation you're in, like if you're out of Port of Miami, the United States, those laws apply. When you're in the territorial waters, which are up to 12 miles, for the most part, that nation's laws apply, not always, too much to get into right now. When you're in what are called contiguous waters, 12 miles to 24 miles, it is a very, very murky issue. When you get beyond 24 miles, when you're on the high seas, it's the law of the flag of the ship. So, for example, the Carnival ship I was on was registered in Panama. Panama law applies to anything that happens on that cruise ship.
Are you licensed in Panama?
No, I'm not. But if you claim that you've been raped, if you claim you've been robbed, if I want to argue a breach of contract, that there's an implied contract that you're going to give me air conditioning, it's not American law that applies. It's Panamanian law. And if the ship is registered in Liberia, it's Liberian law that applies.
Yeah.
And this is why when people call about something that happened on a cruise ship, you've got to refer them to a maritime attorney who can figure out for every different type of offense what law applied and where was the ship at the time. And sometimes you just don't have a claim, even though you would in a normal situation in the United States. You don't because you were on the high seas. So it's a very complicated area of the law. So I ended up writing a letter to the Carnival, and I said, look, I know I don't have a legal claim. I realize that. Now let's see what you feel about customer service. And we'll await the response, and I'll let you know when it happens. Anyway, we never got to the Mueller report of should a sitting president be subject to indictment. Maybe we'll do that next week, because the last time I was here we talked about are they subject to indictment, and are they and should they are different things. But for now, I will say have a great weekend. Give Cheryl a call at my office at 781-8003. So I got her name in, and I got the number in. Until then, until next week, have a wonderful weekend. This is Stuart Address for Ask a Lawyer.
This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie. WPSL.com, worldwide on Alexa and Google Home.